So you all know by now, one of the things we've been doing at the MeidasTouch Network is having conversations with mainstream Republicans, mainstream conservatives who are just absolutely repulsed by Donald Trump. And these are people who previously voted for Donald Trump, either in 2016 or both in 2016 and 2020. Many were voters for Nikki Haley during the Republican primary, and many have, through a very difficult personal journey, come to learn who Donald Trump is. And we've been discussing the data in all of these primaries showing that there's been somewhere between 20 to 25% of Republicans who are not voting for Donald Trump, even in closed Republican primaries. And so I wanted to speak to one who went very, very viral. Kyle Sweetser lives in Alabama, and Kyle made a post on his social media platform, which I think absolutely threw kind of MAGA social media into a rage. And they were trying to act like you aren't even a real person. So we said, let's reach out to Kyle. Let's have a conversation about when Kyle, first kind of realized who Trump really was. But let me just show you some of the posts that went viral. Kyle, you've obviously seen it. I want to show it to everybody else who hasn't seen it. You wrote it. Kyle posted, "We're not MAGA. We're not Democrats. We are classic Republicans, and many of us are voting against Trump. MAGA is a dumpster fire." Here's another post that you made. And it was an original post where you had your wife rocking her Nikki Haley outfit back in February of 2024. And then you wrote recently, "We are Haley voters who are voting for Biden now. Hashtag Biden 2024. One more post you wrote, "I voted for Trump twice. I held my nose last time. I'm now never Trump. There isn't anything he can say or do to win me over. I know his record. Big miscalculation by the Republican establishment to run Trump a third time." So Kyle, welcome to the show, and tell us what made you not only switch your support, but go public with it in the way that you did.
Hey, thanks a lot. Originally I started to have my reservations about Trump with the tariffs. So I saw kind of the impact in construction with steel, finished steel products went up, and not a whole lot of people were really talking about it, especially locally. I actually thought we were going to have some kind of recession before COVID hit. Um, so the second time when I voted for Trump, I did it holding my nose. I voted for a Republican president my entire life. And really since 2022, when I started to pay attention to Ukraine, what was going on with Ukraine and Trump's foreign policy stances, and some things didn't add up. So I really started to pay attention there. And from that point, the longer you stare at Trump and his record, the worse it gets. Trump's cozying up to foreign, basically adversaries in his presidency, which I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to, and I don't really think people pay enough attention to. Really started to kind of get under my skin, and I started to look at his policies, and his policies aren't traditional Republican policies. He's oddly enough, some people don't like me saying this, but he's less conservative than Biden on fiscal responsibility. He added $8 trillion to the debt, even without COVID. He's not fiscally responsible. He has some radical elements within the GOP that really have a loud voice. And that's one of the primary reasons why I'm speaking out, because I feel like many of the people in MAGA, or that say they're MAGA, I don't think they understand that there are some extreme radical elements that Trump's playing to. And really, in my personal life, I've come across people that have become, that I've never seen before in Mobile, anti-Semitic people. I've ran across a couple of them, and I've never encountered them before. Here, that's not really an issue that I knew of, and they're all Trump supporters. So, he just makes people. He gave people a license to act bad out in the open, and I think that the MAGA movement just needs to be destroyed.
From Mobile, Alabama, You never were really all that big on social media, or I don't think you had necessarily an intention that, hey, I'm going to go and make all these posts the way you were. But I mean, to your point, I think you realized that not only were you not going to support Donald Trump this time, but as you mentioned, you had to be vocal about it and you wanted to let other people know who are out there that this is not what conservative is, that MAGA is not conservative. How are those efforts going? And are you noticing that there are kind of a lot of other people like you, like your family, who may have voted Republican their whole life, this time around, though, recognizing there may be an R next to Trump's name when on the ballot, but that doesn't make him a Republican?
So I think, it's important to understand just because someone doesn't say they're going to vote for Joe Biden or support Joe Biden that's a Republican, which you're not going to get too many Republicans to be able to break out of that uh, habit, tribalism, to do that, or not as many as you'd like. I think you're going to have bad turnout, which might not even be showing in the polls, even if Biden's ahead in the polls. I think that Trump's turnout is going to be terrible. There's not the excitement, that there was in 2016 and 2020 down here. If you're not aware, Mobile was the first place that Trump had a large rally at. So everybody kind of goes back to that moment when he came down the escalator. But really, I feel like where Trump got his legs was down in Mobile when he had his rally down at the Lad Stadium, and huge turnout. And there's just not the excitement is not really there, and the only people that are really excited that I've encountered personally here that like Trump on policies that aren't clear, like isolationism. A lot of these people, think that Trump is a super ultra isolationist. He's going to pull out of NATO. He's going to retract from everywhere. He's not going to defend the Pacific, and a lot of those people like that. So I think what my goal has been lately is to try to show people, Trump's foreign policy stances, that they are those isolationist stances, because right now there's still a lot of Republicans that believe that Trump is really strong on foreign policy, and he's not. And they think, some people that I talk to think that there's some kind of weird game that Trump's playing, and there's not. He's just not strong on foreign policy. So
One of the things that President Biden has made an important part of his campaign, and some people have criticized it, is his focus on democracy, his focus on decency, and just focus on like being normal. And I've seen a lot of political pundits saying, no, you got to be more you got to be more energetic like Trump. You got to be out there, kind of yelling and screaming. And Biden's been like, I'm just going to talk about democracy and being normal. I mean, for you who said that you're a Haley voter who's now going to be voting for Biden, is that appeal to democracy and normalcy? Is that something that resonates with you?
absolutely, that's another issue that's huge. Like I said, when I started to pay attention, the problems with Trump became glaringly obvious. That's something that's harder to come to really work with people on, because the media that was traditionally conservative is no longer conservative. It's Trump media, and they're there to serve Trump. So I don't think Fox, some of these other places, I don't think they do. They're not really being honest with the way they portray the whole threat to democracy, which is probably the biggest issue with Trump, trying to overturn our elections, and telling some mentally unwell people. I mean, nobody's going to think that they can climb a barricade and think that something bad's not going to happen to them at the Capitol. No normal person thinks that's okay, but they've somehow convinced people that that's okay to break into a government building during a peaceful transfer of power that's never happened before, where we have these people breaking into a government building and climbing over barricades. So That's really important to me. But like I said, I think that's a harder thing to explain to people because the types of media or the that people view aren't really shining the light on that the way that they need to be shining the light on that.
One of the things too that I think is important, I'd love to get your take on it, which I talk about here. I go, a lot about what I do on the MeidasTouch network, I learned because I was new to politics when I started this, and I just thought I had to pick a political team. And then I realized I may not be all that political. I may be talking about politics, I guess, because there are politicians, but I think I'm talking about just kind of human values. And so, like, when I see Donald Trump go into a church and then lead chants of people cursing while they're wearing Trump MAGA hats at a church, and they're out there cursing in a place of worship, and that's being normalized. I'm thinking to myself, whether you're a religious person or not a religious person, that's just indecent. And how could we have someone like, what do we tell our family? What do we tell our kids? What do we tell the next generation when people are just behaving like that? And to me, that goes beyond Democrat, Republican. That's just like a human being thing. And it's so wild to me that that's been normalized. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so the irony is that, especially where I live, people that wear shirts that in the past that say any kind of profanity or, like rock or metal shirts or whatever, always frowned upon. Now you have people walking around with F Joe Biden shirts on, even the acronym. And the people that were against profanity and stuff before, now all of a sudden okay with it. It is very hypocritical. But that's really what Trump plays to. Trump plays to uh, the type of person that um, they want to be bad, I guess. I mean, it's just weird. It's weird that that's become acceptable, in a public place. But yeah, I can't stand it. I can't stand, like I said, the anti-Semitism thing. These people, I know that we have freedom of speech, but people think that they can just come out and say anything now, and I guess it shows you who they are. But it's kind of scary that there's so many of these people that don't have decency. They don't have they're not very moral people, yet they're the very same people, like you said, that you might see coming out of a church. It's just very disturbing, and very scary. And speaking on that too, we have religious groups here that push propaganda against, like, Catholics, for instance. I came across one the other day. Somebody that lives here that is a religious leader that was posting something about Catholics being Satanists and the global whatever, that whole thing. So it's just kind of scary what's happened under Trump, and the different radical groups that Trump appeals to, and really he gives the oxygen to these people that don't need to have oxygen, because it creates extremism. And so I'm worried about the extremists that may or may not, more extremists that may come out of this movement.
So, look, you're someone who voted for Donald Trump twice. The second time you did it, you held your nose. Now, not only are you not voting for Donald Trump, you're going to be voting for President Biden. To those who are on the fence, to those who may have done the same as you in the past, who don't really know what they should do right now, and they're getting all this conflicting information, what's your kind of final closing argument to them?
Just start paying attention to what Trump says. Pay attention to what Trump says at rallies. Pay attention to what MTG says, Matt Gaetz, and a couple of those other people, because those people are pretty much, as far as I can tell, leading the fringes of Trump's uh, messaging of what he can get away with. So pay attention to those people. And I think any rational person that starts listening to Trump instead of directly, instead of having someone else regurgitate what Trump says, I think if you listen to Trump and then you listen to Biden speak, it's night and day. There's no comparison. Trump is unhinged, and he's just not fit to lead. Certainly not fit to be the president of the United States.
Kyle Sweetser, thanks for joining us, and I hope you'll come back.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, hit subscribe. We're on our way to 3 million subscribers. Thanks to your support. Let's keep growing this unapologetically pro-democracy community. Whether you're a Democrat, whether you're liberal, progressive, mainstream, conservative, Republican, independent, you support democracy, MeidasTouch Network's the place for you. Thanks for watching.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.